Every empire promises its money is eternal. Every government swears your savings are safe, and every single time they're lying. From Rome to Lebanon, from the Confederacy to modern-day collapses, people wake up to find their life savings turned to dust overnight. But here's what they don't tell you. While paper burns, one skill always survives. And if you don't have it, you'll understand why too late. Let me ask you something. What do you actually own right now? Your house? Your car? Your savings account? Strip away the legal fictions and the banking system and ask yourself, what do you truly possess that holds value when everything else fails? Most people think wealth is a number on a screen, but money is just paper. It's just data. It's collective belief. And when that belief shatters, and it always does, the only thing left standing is what you can do. This is the pattern that is repeated in every major economic collapse for the last 3,000 years, and the people who understand it don't just survive, they thrive. Let's go back to ancient Rome, not the Rome of gladiators and conquest, but the Rome of the 3rd century crisis. Between 235 and 284 AD, the empire was falling apart. Nearly 50 years of chaos. Invasions, plagues, civil wars, and something most people don't talk about, total currency collapse. The silver denarius, once the backbone of Roman commerce, had been debased so thoroughly that it contained less than 5% silver. It was basically a bronze coin with silver paint. Prices exploded. A measure of wheat that once cost a single denarius suddenly cost dozens. Soldiers demanded higher pay, but their wages bought nothing. Merchants stopped accepting coins altogether. Here's the critical part. The survivors weren't the ones hoarding debased currency. They were the farmers who could grow food, the blacksmiths who could forge tools, the bakers who could turn grain into bread. When money died, production became the only currency that mattered. The man who could shoe a horse was wealthier than the merchant with a chest full of coins, because you can't eat silver. You can't build a house with denarii, but you can always trade a skill for survival. Fast forward to the 14th century. The Black Death arrives in Europe like a biblical apocalypse. Between 1347 and 1351, somewhere between 30 and 60% of Europe's population dies. Entire villages vanish. Cities empty. Trade routes collapse. And here's where it gets interesting. Because when half the labor force disappears, labor becomes the most valuable commodity in existence. Survivors could suddenly demand wages that would have been unthinkable before. Peasants who had been tied to land for generations could walk away and find work elsewhere at triple the pay. But it wasn't just about wages, it was about leverage. The people with skills, carpenters, masons, weavers, millers, suddenly had power. Lords who once commanded armies of workers now had to negotiate, had to offer better terms, had to compete for labor. And the ones who really won? The ones who could produce multiple forms of value. The farmer who could also butcher meat, the blacksmith who could also work leather, the merchant who could also navigate ships. Versatility became survival. Specialization became a luxury only the secure could afford. Land that once cost a fortune could be bought for nothing because there was no one to work it. But if you had the skills to make that land productive, you could build generational wealth in a single lifetime. The Black Death was a catastrophe, but for those with the right skills, it was also the greatest economic opportunity in 1,000 years. Jump ahead to revolutionary France, 1790s. The monarchy has fallen. The church's lands have been seized, and the new government issues a paper currency called the assignat, supposedly backed by all that confiscated property. At first, it seems brilliant. The revolution can fund itself without raising taxes. The economy can expand without the constraints of gold or silver. It's the 18th century version of just print more money. And predictably, it's a disaster. The government prints assignats with abandon. Each new issue dilutes the last. Within a few years, the currency is worthless. Prices spiral into madness. Wages can't keep pace, and the government, desperate to maintain control, issues the Edict of Maximum Prices, fixing the cost of goods by law, with death as the penalty for violations. It doesn't work. It never works. You can't legislate value into worthless paper. The official economy collapses, the black market explodes. And here's the key. The people who navigate this chaos successfully aren't the ones clutching bags of assignats. They're the ones who can trade real goods and real services. The farmer refuses to sell grain for paper. He demands tools, cloth, or labor in exchange. The baker won't accept assignats. He wants flour, firewood, or repairs to his oven. The cobbler trades shoes for food, not currency. The entire economy reverts to direct exchange of value, and the people who thrive are the ones who can produce something others need. The carpenter, the seamstress, the cooper. These aren't glamorous skills, but they're the skills that keep people alive when money dies. Meanwhile, the wealthy who trusted in paper, the merchants, the financiers, the speculators, watch their fortunes evaporate. The revolution promised liberty, equality, fraternity. What it delivered was a brutal lesson. When the system collapses, production is the only protection. Now let's talk about something most Americans have never been taught. The United States has already lived through a currency collapse. It happened during the Civil War, and the lessons are as relevant today as they were in 1865. The Confederacy, desperate to fund its war effort, printed money called graybacks. At first, people accepted them. Patriotism, hope, belief in the cause. But as the war dragged on and the Confederacy printed more and more, the currency became a cruel joke. By the end of the war, Confederate inflation had reached levels that are hard to comprehend, prices rising thousands of %. A pound of butter that cost $1 in 1861 cost hundreds by 1865. Soldiers were paid in currency that was worthless before they could spend it. Families carried sacks of bills that couldn't buy a loaf of bread. And here's the part that should terrify you. This wasn't some distant empire or foreign country. This was America. This was people who spoke English, who believed in property rights, who thought their money was backed by a legitimate government. And it all turned to dust. The people who survived weren't the ones with the biggest bank accounts. They were the ones who could produce food, repair tools, build shelter, provide medical care. The plantation owner with vaults full of Confederate bonds starved. The blacksmith with a forge and a strong back ate every day. In the North, the situation was better, but not by much. The Union issued greenbacks, paper currency not backed by gold. Inflation hit there too, though not as catastrophically. And the lesson was the same. When currency loses value, skills gain it. The farmer who could grow wheat, the factory worker who could operate machinery, the engineer who could design bridges, the doctor who could set bones and treat infections. These were the people who maintained their standard of living while everyone else scrambled. And after the war, when the South was in ruins and the economy had to be rebuilt from scratch, who do you think prospered? Not the former plantation aristocracy clutching worthless bonds. It was the skilled tradesmen, the builders, the mechanics, the people who could take raw materials and turn them into something useful. You might be thinking, that's all ancient history. We have central banks now. We have deposit insurance. We have safeguards. And that's exactly what the people of Lebanon thought in 2019. Lebanon had banks. It had a government. It had all the trappings of a modern financial system. And then, almost overturned, it collapsed. Banks locked their doors. Deposits were frozen. The Lebanese pound lost over 90% of its value. People who had saved for decades found themselves unable to access their own money. Middle-class families, doctors, engineers, teachers were wiped out. Not because they were reckless, not because they made bad investments, but because they trusted the system. They believed that money in a bank was safe. They believed that their government would protect them. They were wrong. And the people who survived best, the ones who had skills that could be traded directly, the electrician who could wire a house, the plumber who could fix pipes, the mechanic who could repair cars, the baker who could make bread. These people didn't need access to frozen bank accounts. They had something more valuable, the ability to create value that others needed immediately. This isn't just Lebanon. Look at Venezuela, where hyperinflation turned the bolivar into toilet paper. Look at Zimbabwe, where people needed wheelbarrows of cash to buy groceries. Look at Argentina, which has defaulted on its debt 9 times. Look at Greece, where banks closed and ATMs ran dry. Every single time, the pattern is the same. The people who depend on the system get wiped out. The people who can produce value outside the system survive. And the ones who thrive are those who saw it coming and positioned themselves accordingly. Here's what nobody wants to admit. The global financial system right now is more fragile than it has ever been in human history. Global debt exceeds $300 trillion. That's more than 3 times the entire world's annual economic output. Central banks have printed trillions in the last 15 years alone. Interest rates have been manipulated to near zero for over a decade. This isn't sustainable. It's not a question of if it breaks, it's a question of when. And when it does, your 401k won't save you. Your savings account won't save you. Your government's promises won't save you. What will save you is this. Can you produce value when the system fails? Not theoretical value, not financial engineering, not moving numbers around on a spreadsheet. Real, tangible value that people need to survive and thrive. Can you grow food? Can you fix things? Can you build things? Can you heal people? Can you teach skills? Can you create tools? Can you provide services that matter when everything else collapses? This is the one skill that thrives when money vanishes, the ability to produce. And it's not just one specific trade, it's the mindset of production itself. It's understanding that wealth isn't what you have, it's what you can do. The carpenter doesn't need a functioning banking system to build a table. The farmer doesn't need a stable currency to grow tomatoes. The mechanic doesn't need government guarantees to fix an engine. These skills are anti-fragile. They don't just survive chaos, they become more valuable because of it. And here's the deeper truth. Production creates optionality. When you can produce value, you can trade it for anything else you need. You're not dependent on a single employer, a single currency, or a single system. You have leverage, you have freedom, you have power. So here's where we are. You're living in the most indebted, most financialized, most fragile economic system in human history. And you have a choice. You can keep trusting that the numbers on your screen will always mean something. You can keep believing that the system will protect you. You can keep assuming that your salary, your savings, and your retirement account will be there when you need them. And maybe you'll be right. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe we've finally figured out how to print unlimited money without consequences. Or you can look at 3,000 years of history and recognize the pattern. Collapse isn't rare. Collapse is the rule. And every single time, the survivors are the ones who can create value when money fails. So start building. Learn to grow food, even if it's just a garden. Learn to fix things, even if it's just basic repairs. Learn to build things, even if it's just simple woodworking. Learn to code, to write, to teach, to heal. Learn skills that produce tangible value that people need, regardless of what's happening in the financial markets. Because when the next collapse comes, and it will come, the only currency that matters is what you can do. The baker will eat, the builder will have shelter, the mechanic will have transportation, the farmer will have food, and the person who trusted the system? They'll have nothing but worthless promises and empty accounts. History doesn't repeat, but the pattern is always there. Money fails, systems collapse, governments lie, but production never loses value. The question isn't whether you'll face this reality. The question is whether you'll be ready when it arrives. If this changed how you see the world, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.